Former governor of Anambra State and the 2023 presidential candidate Peter Obi joined thousands of mourners, global dignitaries, and clergy today at St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City, to pay his final respect to the late Pope Francis, who passed away on April 21st. The solemn line in state ceremony marked the beginning of a series of events leading to the funeral of the revered pontiff, scheduled for Saturday, April 26th. This was made known in a statement shared on his X, formerly Twitter, on Wednesday. Describing the moment as one of deep reflection, Obi paid tribute to the Pope's life of humility, service, and unwavering commitment to the poor and marginalized. He recalled his encounters with the Pope, highlighting the profound impact they had on his understanding of leadership and moral responsibility. Obi also shared his experience as a member of Scholars Occultantes, an international think tank founded by the Pope during his tenure as Archbishop, focused on ethical leadership and truth-driven social transformation. He further called on leaders across Africa, political, religious, and community, to emulate the values Pope Francis championed, which he said were justice, peace, and human dignity. Sharing photos, Obi wrote, "Today I joined Francis, Cardinal Arinze, global dignitaries, and thousands of mourners at St. Peter's Basilica, Rome, to pay my final respects to His Holiness, Pope Francis, who passed away on April 21. The solemn line in state ceremony was a moment of deep reflection as the world bids farewell to a man who embodied humility, simplicity, and selfless service. Pope Francis was more than a pontiff. He was a moral light in a world darkened by inequality and indifference. His life was a testament to leadership as a sacred duty, one rooted in compassion, truth, and service to the poor and marginalized. He lived for others, for the voiceless, and reminded us all that leadership must be about lifting others, not self-exaltation. I came to truly appreciate what he stood for after my appointment as a member of the Scholars Occultantes, an international circle of thinkers he founded during his time as Archbishop. The organization, dedicated to truth, ethical leadership, and social transformation, gave me a deeper insight into the intellectual and moral force behind his teachings. I was blessed to meet Pope Francis on 3 occasions. Each encounter left a lasting impression. He radiated peace and inspired faith, and his presence was a quiet yet powerful reminder of the divine responsibility that leadership entails. His humility was infectious, his wisdom deeply human. As we mourn this great soul, I urge political, religious, and community leaders, especially across Africa, to reflect on his life and commit to the values he upheld: justice, peace, and human dignity. Let this moment not just be one of mourning, but a call to lead with conscience, walk with the people, and govern with love. May Pope Francis' soul rest in perfect peace, and may his legacy live on in all who seek to serve humanity selflessly. Pope Francis died on Monday at the age of 88, marking the end of a papacy defined by humility, reform, and a deep commitment to the marginalized. Meanwhile, the funeral of Pope Francis will take place on Saturday, April 26, 2025 at 10 a.m. in St. Peter's Square. Pope Francis is gone, and he was 88 years of age, and he did his own part as a human being, spending 88 years on earth. And when he came in 2013, some of the persons were thinking, what kind of pope would he be? What kind of background does he have? What would he change? What would he add? What would he remove from the Catholic faith? And there's a whole lot happened under him, because he became a pope that was accommodating, a pope that never condemned anybody. You know, the gays, the LGBTQ community, he saw them as people whom, are part of the family. I mean, of course, he had his own issues with the sex scandal. And of course, the issues with ordaining women bishops. There's a whole lot that happened under him. I mean, it was a whirlwind, really. So many persons thought that some of his accommodating stance, affected some persons, where churches and Catholics around the world were thinking they want to dissociate themselves from, the Pope with, the Catholic faith at the time. because of his stance on some issues, you know. So on today's program, I actually engaged Reverend Father Ofodile, who gave me an insight into what has happened while, you know, he was Pope. All the while, he stands on accommodating more people, his mindset towards that, and of course speaking to the days leading to his death, and also spoke about marriage. You know, there are people who were divorced. There were certain stands that the Catholic have over people who were divorced, which he came and became moderate about it, sometimes even going up and above or beyond what the Catholicism actually, you know, preached. So he you know, unfortunately gave some instances and gave some interesting point of view regarding that conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation, and it was one that it gave us an insight into what the Pope was thinking, why he was doing those things, and beyond that also. We talk about the future, about what happens next. How does a pope get elected or get picked? When is this one going to be buried? And what's the rule and regulation guiding, you know, the next appointments and then the next selection of who becomes the next pope? You know, there shouldn't be any vacuum. So that's exactly what the discussion was about. So it was an interesting discussion that I thought that you would enjoy. And I want you to also drop your comments when you do watch it. We want to use this opportunity to say a rest in peace to the Pope Francis. He's done his own part. And like I always say, when you die, what would the world remember you for? Your word might not necessarily be the entire world where presidents, governors around the world are giving their tribute. It could be people around you, your friends, your well-wishers, your extended family, your immediate family, your neighbors. What would they remember you for? What kind of person would you leave in their mind when you go? Because that's the only thing that would be left of you. The memories of what you were able to do while you were on earth is what you're going to be leaving behind. So what is that thing? What is that one thing they'll remember you for? So be good, be nice, be for humanity. Thank you. What for you would you say is the legacies of Pope Francis?
Thank you very much. To start with, we talk about the death of Pope Francis. I can render this in Igbo. No, he died a good death, because at the point where we are celebrating the Paschal mystery, the resurrection of Christ, he came out in his Ubi et Orbe, blessing to the city and blessing to the world on Sunday, and after that on Monday 7:35 a.m. he died, and showing us that there is a link between death and resurrection. And during this period we talk about the necessity of Good Friday for us to have Easter Sunday, and the Pope participated in all, and then finally at the resurrection of Jesus, he also resurrected with him. And that's our concept of death. Death is a transition, a movement to another realm. So it's a continuation. If you live a good life, you will be anticipating. This Pope Francis actually anticipated his death, because already in 2022 he had already written how he will be buried. 2022, can imagine that. So you see somebody who is prepared for that, and he's a man who has left a lot of legacies for us. Of course, you have to know that his name, George Mario Bergoglio, born on 17th December 1936. He is the 266th Pope of the Catholic Church, and the Pope of over 1 billion Catholics. And he's a man noted for his compassion for the weak, love for immigrants and refugees. He's a man who will go all out to, you know, look after those who are at the margins of the society. And this is a man who in his lifetime showcased his love for creation. In one of his encyclicals, Laudato Si, he talked about care for creation, care for the environment, you know, fostering love for things around. Now, it's not surprising, because he took up the name of St. Francis of Assisi. And of course, Francis loved nature. And in the manner of St. Francis, Pope Francis also, loved nature and tried to advocate for protection of the environment and creation. So we see in this man a man who has left everything to follow Jesus Christ. And even in his ill health, you see him, he traveled to over 68 countries in his papacy, demonstrating his love for humanity, trying to touch every fabric of the society, trying to show that the love of Jesus Christ does not have limits. He goes on to show this love in his life. So we could learn humility also. This is a pope who, a pope is supposed to be wearing a red shoe. But he said, no, I don't want any pomp and pageantry about the pope. I want to wear my black shoe. And he continued. He's supposed to live in a palace, a pope's palace. He said, no, I'm going to live in this apartment. You see, simplicity. This is someone who knew what he came for. And then he tried in his life to showcase this, trying to speak, to advocate for justice all over the world. He had tried, wherever you have warring countries, those who are at war, you see him going in to advocate for peace, trying a reconciliation. So this is the legacy he left behind, and I hope that he will, or the person coming after him will also follow in his footsteps. Because of course we are entering into the processes of electing a new pope. In the Catholic Church, we have this tradition of, we don't waste time in burying a pope, because everything is ready, and it's also a lesson to the society. If you understand the concept of death, that death is a movement to another realm, you will be prepared at all times, and the pope was prepared actually.
We understand that there's an African who is also vying for the position of the pope. Talk us through how it works with, taking the next step as to who takes over from.
Okay, if a pope dies, there is someone we call the Papa Chamberlain, Camerlengo. He was appointed by Pope Francis in 2019. And he's the one who takes over in this period of sede vacante. That is, the seat is empty. The Pope is not there. We don't have a Pope, but we have someone who takes care of affairs. He is the one who will announce the death of the Pope, actually. Because yesterday, Cardinal Kevin Farrell had to announce to the people, because when a pope dies, the Camerlengo approaches the remains of the pope, and you call his baptismal name 3 times. After which, if you did not respond, he will be declared, he will announce that he had died. And that was what happened before the announcement. So he will now talk to those who are around, then announce that the Pope had died at 7:35 a.m. on Monday morning. And he will now take over the affairs. He's now the person in charge, preparing the burial and then also preparing for the conclave. So now at present, what we have is that we are preparing for the burial. Within 4 to 6 days, the Pope will be buried. And within 15 days, the cardinals all over the world will be called from all over, wherever they are, to come to the Sistine Chapel. In that Sistine Chapel, they will be under lock and key in a gathering we call the conclave. That is the gathering of cardinals to elect a pope. Presently we have over 252 cardinals, and 138 are eligible for election. And amongst those who are, of course, we have 4 cardinals in Nigeria. We have Cardinal Francis Cardinal Arinze, we have Anthony Cardinal Okojie, we have Peter Cardinal Obaleke, we have Cardinal Onayenkon. These are 4 cardinals. But out of these 4, only 1 is eligible, and the eligibility age is 80 years. So if you are above 80, you are not going to participate in the election. So out of the 240 or 252 cardinals, 138, and only 120 will be going into the Sistine Chapel to elect a pope. And so those who are actually under 80 years, so the limit is 120, they will go in there. And when they go in there, this argument or this politics about let us have an African pope, but we had an African pope before. We had 3 African popes. Pope Victor was one of them. So just that in recent times we have not had an African pope, but it also says something about picking up the ethnic regional sentiments of leadership we picked from the Nigerian state or wherever, and we are bringing it into the church. The church is not like that. So when the cardinals are assembled in the in the Sistine Chapel. They will start with a Holy Mass, the Mass of the Holy Spirit, to direct them to elect a new Pope. So votings will be done 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. And they will be under lock and key, away from the distractions of the media, of people. So all of them will just be there. They'll be praying and doing the election. 2 in the morning. So until they elect a Pope, they are not allowed to come out. So there is this iconic smoke that will always come out. They will produce if they do and conduct an election and they didn't come to a 2/3 majority, they will, because people are around waiting to look at the chimney to see when they will show them that we have a Pope. Once you have a white smoke, then you have a Pope. But once you have a black smoke, it means they have not come to a 2/3 majority. So they will be there for some time during the election, morning and afternoon, until they come to a 2/3 majority. And so when somebody, so in this case now, it's not just about, are you African or are you Asian or are you American? No, it's about if one, the work of the Holy Spirit; 2, the cardinals who are assembled, who are eligible for election, will elect you into being the Pope, the Roman pontiff. So once you are elected, they will ask you, are you willing to take up the responsibility? If you say no, another election will be conducted. So if you say yes, the cardinal deacon will now come out and proclaim, Habemus Papam, we have a Pope, and people will rejoice, and there will be the white smoke showing that we have a Pope, and then the Pope will take a name. Of course, that the present, in the time of Pope John Paul II, his name was Karol Wojtyla. Now, in the time of Pope Francis, his name was George Mario Bergoglio. So you take a name. And so when we say we have Habemus Papam, you come out, people will see you, and then people will rejoice.
Why do you have to take a name?
You take a name because it is the tradition. Okay. A name of a person you want to look up to.
Okay.
You are assuming the vicar of Christ on earth, the first Pope, the Pope. You are assuming the vicar of Christ on earth. You are representing Christ. You are the Holy Father. Okay, so there is also the aspect of the infallibility of the Pope in matters that concerns doctrines. The Pope speaks ex cathedra. The Pope will always, in matters that concerns his personal relationship with people, he can err. But then in matters that concerns faith, he proclaims ex cathedra. That's matters of faith. Okay, so the processes are devoid of what you could call the intrigues of politics we have around, but we have a system that guarantees free and fair election. And this is a lesson also to world leaders. They should allow the Holy Spirit to help them to elect good leaders who can lead them. Okay, so there is no campaigning. Of course, I didn't say this during the announcement of the death of the Pope. The Camerlengo, that is the Papa Chamberlain, will remove the ring of the bishop. It's called the fisherman's ring. He will destroy it in the presence of the cardinals because it's the authority of the Pope. So that's why your caption this morning is very important. And is very admirable. The end of another era. So an era ends and then a new one begins. A new Pope comes in with another insignia of the Pope. So it's very remarkable, and it's very interesting if we follow through the processes of the election of the Pope, because people will be at the Vatican, watching what is happening, and people giving their analysis about what happens. But of course, no media will be allowed inside because it's strictly for the cardinals to elect a Pope.
So when the new Pope comes, does it come with a totally different doctrine, or sticking to the doctrine of the Catholic Church? Because we've seen a little bit of shift from what the doctrine has been with what Francis did.
Pope Francis didn't shift the doctrine. What he did was to make it more accommodating.
More accommodating,
not a change.
But it's a shift a little bit.
You can't call it a shift, because if you say a shift, it may mean that you are going against the traditions. Let me give you an instance. During the Second Vatican Council, there was what we call aggiornamento. The doors of the church were opened so that what we call our culture could also come into the liturgy. For instance, before Second Vatican Council, the use of local instruments was not They were disciples. The apostles were the core 12, the inner carcass of Jesus' ministry. And he worked closely with them. But there were also women, people like Mary Magdalene, people like the Mother of God, Blessed Virgin Mary, people like Salome, mother of John and James. They were there providing for him. They were his disciples, but they were not the core 12. But then you see, during this resurrection, it's very important that we understand